Cosmoverse 24. My name is Jeroen. I'm the COO of Persistence. Today I'm going to present to you the bull case for BTCFi. BTCFi is short for Bitcoin-powered decentralized finance. In this industry, you have to be quite careful or limited in terms of like the things that you want to be bullish on. But my things that I am bullish on are on this slide. Obviously, there's Bitcoin, but then there's intents and there's interoperability. Those two I'm incredibly bullish on because intents and interoperability, they are sparking a wave of innovation that is going to define the future of finance. In these next 15 minutes, I'll guide you through how Bitcoin is evolving from just a store of value, the digital gold that we know, towards a full-fledged global financial powerhouse. Now, this is I think the first keynote at the very first Bitcoin track at a Cosmos conference. So I didn't want to assume that you guys have a lot of history on Bitcoin. So let's go and have a little look at the history of Bitcoin. I'll keep it short, just for you to get some context. So it all started in 2008 with the Bitcoin white paper. Was published, was supposed to be some form of an electronic payment system. 2009, early 2009, that actually came to fruition. The first Genesis block was mined. It actually had a little quote in it from the Times that day. Chancellor says, on the brink of the second bailout for banks. 2010, pretty famous transaction happened. It's the Bitcoin pizza transaction. Someone spent 10,000 Bitcoin to get some pizza delivered to his house. I hope it was a good pizza, because that's quite expensive, nowadays at least. But what it did is it proved that Bitcoin actually had real-world use case. You could actually do something in the real world with your Bitcoin. A little bit later, some exchanges started to pop up. Like there was really some awareness being created, and Bitcoin became more accessible. So these exchanges, they kind of sparked a little bit of a interest in Bitcoin. It was the first time it started to really get adoption, which led to a few issues. There was a bit of congestion on the network. Transactions are getting slower, more expensive. So there was a full debate on like Bitcoin scaling. And eventually, 2017, Bitcoin introduced something called SegWit, which made it a little bit more programmable, a little bit more scalable. But even that wasn't like that great at the moment, because you saw Ethereum coming up. On Ethereum, you had like full programmability, a lot of smart contracts. You could write a whole bunch of things on Ethereum. Do DeFi there was starting all of those things. But on Bitcoin, it was really still pretty slow. You couldn't do that much with your Bitcoin, just transfer from one wallet to another. It took almost until 2021, actually, for the Bitcoin and kind of bring something in. But it was still very, very limited. Even then, with that happening in 2021, it took 2 more years to see some form of innovation actually on the technical front on Bitcoin. We actually saw ordinals pop off, which is basically just NFTs on Bitcoin. It's really nothing new, so kind of sad. 2024 was actually different. We started to see global adoption, mindshare, even in TradFi. There's ETFs now, which you can trade Bitcoin, right? Then runes came up, but now more importantly, 2024, we saw the rise of Bitcoin L2s. Bitcoin L2s, we've heard it in the panel before, they're upcoming. It's a very important piece, and I'll talk about it later. But it opens the door to something that I'm super bullish of, the bull case for BTCFi. Now, Bitcoin, 16 years old, but honestly, still a bit of a baby. You look at it, it's done good. It's actually done pretty well. It's the 10th biggest asset in the world at the moment. It's extremely secure. It's super decentralized. And most importantly, it has so much mindshare. Everyone knows Bitcoin. My grandmom knows Bitcoin, but they don't know, I don't think everyone knows Ethereum or any of the other tokens, even Cosmos, right? So that's great. But transaction costs are still high. Still quite limited in terms of what you can do in terms of like smart contracts and stuff. unfortunately, it's still incredibly slow. It's 10-minute block times. So in 16 years, we haven't really seen the tech innovation that we were hoping for. If you think about like 16 years is a long time. 16 years ago, Uber launched. Let me ask you a question. Who has used Bitcoin? Okay, more than I figured. That's good, that's good. Still, I saw more hands with Uber. But so that's just to say where we stand. Not that many people are using Bitcoin at the moment, even 16 years in. So I believe it's actually changing now. So what's changing now? We've heard it on the panel earlier, but things are different. On the slide it says, we've tried bringing the asset to the tech, now we're bringing the tech to the asset. What does that mean? So we saw this evolution on Ethereum happening with DeFi, and you actually started to see productive assets. It was mentioned earlier. Productive asset, what is that? An asset that is used in DeFi. You can borrow against it. You can use it in different protocols, DeFi activities. With Bitcoin, that wasn't possible. And while all these things were happening on Bitcoin, on Ethereum, Bitcoin was just sitting idle. It was just there. People were just holding it, store of value, right? Digital gold. So people wanted to actually do something with Bitcoin. And only in 2019, BitGo actually introduced Wrap BTC. I guess Wrap BTC everyone knows, WBTC on Ethereum. But that experiment to me was a little bit of a failure. If you think about it, it's just below, I think, 1.5% of the total Bitcoin supply that was ever used like in DeFi. So to me, a failed experiment to bring the asset to the tech, because the tech was there on Ethereum, even with the asset being there in form of Wrap BTC, still didn't really take off. Less than 1.5% of the total supply of Bitcoin has been made productive. Now, ever since the Taproot upgrade, we've started to change our mind on how to actually use this. And we're starting to bring the tech to the asset. We're bringing the tech to Bitcoin. We're bringing the tech to Bitcoin through Bitcoin L2s and through different things, such as Babylon, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. They introduced Bitcoin staking. They now have 1.5 billion in TVL, Bitcoin that will be made productive. Super big unlock for Bitcoin. You can now stake it, use it to secure other things, other chains, make it actually productive asset, and leverage that Bitcoin security. Maybe less known, but you have BitVM, it was also mentioned. BitVM, huge innovator when it comes to Bitcoin smart contracts. BitVM actually looks kind of similar to optimistic rollups on Ethereum. It allows for transaction to be computed off-chain and settled onto the Bitcoin layer without having to change the Bitcoin core protocol. And thirdly, we have all these Bitcoin L2s. There's a whole lot of teams working on Bitcoin L2s, and they're leveraging Bitcoin security, and they're leveraging the network that is there to bring scalability to Bitcoin and bring programmability to Bitcoin. And that's the one I will focus on today, Bitcoin L2s. Because it actually creates another problem. It creates a problem of fragmentation. There's no interoperability between those. And that's a problem that we at Persistence, we decided to solve for. Something we've seen from the Cosmos ecosystem, how important interoperability is with IBC. And we're trying to bring that to Ethereum, to Bitcoin, but in a different way. Now, there's already 50 plus BTC L2s that we can count. Some of them quite famous, BitLayer, BVM, BounceBit, Rootstock, Stacks, Merlin, a lot of these. And we haven't even seen like chains launch on top of Babylon, right? Now, this creates a fragmentation problem. It's hard to do anything between those chains. They're not interoperable. They're their own individual blockchains, ecosystems. To make it harder, most of these projects have actually launched their own form of Bitcoin. On Stacks, you have Stacks BTC. On Merlin, you have Merlin BTC. Rootstock has Rootstock BTC. And then all of that, you still have Wrap BTC on Ethereum. Now you have Coinbase with Coinbase BTC. You have Kraken, who just announced Kraken BTC. It's all over the shop, really. To be honest, it's very tricky. Now, it's all fine, but it's actually quite hard to go and use whatever form of BTC you have in the different DeFi opportunities that might come up on these new networks. So let's say you have Stacks BTC. And you just see an opportunity on Merlin on Merlin chain, but there you need Merlin BTC. It's like, fuck, what do I do now? So you have to unwind your stacks BTC, bring it to BTC on the chain, on the layer 1, then from there on, bring it to Merlin, which will take you at least a couple of blocks, which is 30, 40 minutes, let's say, a bunch of fees, it's super slow, and this UX is terrible. So if that is how we want to bring DeFi to Bitcoin, that's not going to work, right? It's going to be impossible to onboard users. It's going to be impossible to boost DeFi activity, and we will not have good UX with that. So goodbye to good yields for users, goodbye to users to chase good opportunities because they will be too slow. Now, I'm assuming you guys all checked into a hotel here today, probably had to pay, or today or yesterday, whatever you arrived, you had to pay in dirhams, right? But none of you had to call their bank and say, hey, actually, I have USD or euros in my bank account. Can you quickly change it to dirhams so I can pay for this hotel? Of course not. That's unthinkable. And it's the same way. We just expect that to happen in the background. Currently on Bitcoin, you would actually have to make that change first. And that's something that's just unacceptable when it comes to good UX. So fragmentation, it's really a problem, and it will hurt scalability, but not if we have interoperability. So what does that mean, interoperability between different chains? Does that mean bridges? Yes, in a way it does, right? But we're not really a fan of traditional bridges. We all know what happens with traditional bridges. They're risky, they're not really scalable because they depend on TVL. It's typically high slippage, you have MEV risks, you have that TVL honeypot, which is so attractive for hackers, which is why so many bridges have been hacked, and it's just poor UX. We're more a fan of intent-based swaps. What are intents? I'm not sure, show of hands, who knows intents? Who's familiar with intents? All right, not that many. So I'll try and explain it very simple, like what an intent is. An intent is a very simple way for a user to express what he wants, right? I want to do this. And I'll use Uber as an example again. So let's say you want to order something on Uber Eats. You say, I want to order a sandwich and I want it to arrive in 30 minutes and the sandwich has to come from that shop. That's your intent. This is what I want. Now, which driver picks up this food or which route he takes, whether it takes the highway or not, it does not matter. All you care about is the outcome. And that is specified in your intent. Same thing is here. Currently in crypto, if you want to swap, let's say you want to swap on Osmosis or Uniswap, you have to specify, I want to swap this asset into this specific pool with these specific parameters, and I hope to get as much out of the other asset as possible. Not really great, because it's a lot of complexity for the user, a lot of assumptions. So intents will solve this, and it actually, how it works, it gives an access to a network of global liquidity. How this happens with solvers, and I'll explain this in the next slide. But the advantage is that there's no slippage, no MEV, and it's a product without TVL, so no real risk of getting hacked, actually. The TVL is only there for the amount of time that the transaction happens. It's very, very fast, very secure. So how does this work? So you're a user. You sign this order. You say, look, I have BTC-A, let's simplify. I have BTC-A on chain A, and I want to get to BTC-B on chain B. And I want to swap one-to-one. I'm happy to pay a little fee on top of that, but this is my intent. I signed this order. So I signed this order is broadcasted, and there's a network of solvers. These are professional market makers who are looking at these intents, and they say, oh, I see someone is requesting one BTC-B on chain B. He's willing to pay a little fee for that. I will help this guy, and I will fulfill his intent, and I'll send him one BTC-B on chain B straight away, no questions asked. So he fills that order, and the user who has just broadcasted his intent, 1 second later, gets his BTC-B on chain B. Now that's great for the user. His intent is fulfilled immediately. But now the solver is actually down 1 BTC. So how do we solve this? So that's where we come in with the persistence chain. we actually look at this fulfillment. We need to make sure that the user has received his funds. Once his funds are received, and once we can see that we've reached finality, we can actually instruct the source chain to release the funds to the solver on chain A. These solvers, these market makers, they hold a little bit on inventory on each of these chains, and it's now their problem if they want to rebalance or not. That is up to them. They can choose to just keep inventory on both sides. They can choose to rebalance using the traditional bridges. So that's basically what we do. And the good thing with persistence is that we will be secured by Babylon by using Bitcoin staking. So it's like an intent-based bridge, powered by intents, obviously, and secured by Bitcoin. Now, this seems very simple. Obviously, it's not that simple. We've been working on this for a while. The good thing is we actually managed to deploy on testnet earlier this month. We've done the first cross-chain testnet transactions across different Bitcoin L2s. To start off with, we're starting with a bunch of EVM chains. So we're choosing 6 quite prominent EVM-based layer 2s. Even including in the layer 2s, we're including Base, and we're including Binance because they have quite a significant supply of BTC in the form of Coinbase BTC and in the form of BTCB. But I call all of these Bitcoin L2s because they will hold a significant amount of BTC and they will be very important for BTCFi. So we're starting with a few EVM chains. Our audience is B2C, so we're starting just for the user to be able to bridge from one chain to another. And we're partnering with Layer 0 for our cross-chain messaging network. By early next year, we should be on mainnet, hoping all the audits go well and everything, with pretty much the same setup, but only then we actually will introduce the actual Bitcoin staking through Babylon. And so we will be one of the very first chains that will use Bitcoin security through Babylon. In V2, we will actually expand to bring other chains in as well, non-EVM chains, typically more closer, like linked to Bitcoin. For example, Stacks is one of the big ones that we'll be working with. And our audience will be more B2B2C in a way. We'll really be integrating with a bunch of different protocols so that they can accept whatever form of BTC it is that they need to go into their protocol. So yeah, it's a huge unlock. If you're a DeFi protocol and you're currently accepting some form of BTC, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 different forms, but now you want to accept all forms of BTC, come talk to us. We'll get that done. Now, to just give an idea, like how big is this opportunity? Like what market are we solving for? Like, well, it is Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is pretty big if you compare it in terms of market cap to Ethereum. And let's be optimistic for a while, that DeFi on Bitcoin or DeFi around Bitcoin will be as big as DeFi currently is on Ethereum. Then just with that, we're expecting a daily bridging volume between L2s or Bitcoin L2s of more than $500 million a day. So $500 million of cross-chain volume. So this opportunity is huge. Bitcoin is huge. It's just hard to not be bullish on an opportunity this big. Another thing it's hard to not be bullish on is intense. The change or the transformation from single chain liquidity in AMMs, where you have this impermanent loss, towards a world with aggregated cross-venue liquidity, where you have these solvers, these market makers that are connected to all of these DEXs and SEXs. They have dynamic pathfinding. It's just very hard to not be bullish on that. And I really believe that this is the next wave of innovation that is coming to DeFi, and Intense will play a huge, huge role in that. So now, oh, that was too early. So now, next time your Uber driver asks you for the golden crypto tip, what do you think you should tell him? Buy Bitcoin? Correct. So buy Atom, maybe. buy Bitcoin. And what's his next question going to be? He's going to ask, okay, if I buy, when do I sell, right? So sell your Bitcoin? No, never sell your Bitcoin, especially not now that you can stake it, Babylon, now that you can borrow against it, use it in DeFi, and now that you can move it around freely. Don't sell your Bitcoin. You can do everything with it now. There's no point in selling. If you're part of Team Bitcoin, come talk to me and let's build the future of BTCFi together. Thank you very much.